Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, William Chow. And in today's episode, I want to talk a little bit more about my progress and my projects that I've done using AI and how I've used that for different things in anime. So, again, I've done different things in the past, including writing an ebook, as well as doing lots of work with rendering pictures and crossing anime and that kind of stuff. And today I just want to do a little bit of an update and show some of the results of some of the things that I've worked on, and just show you what I've been doing with some of these anime renders that I've been doing. Okay, so before I begin, I'd like to remind people to go down below and click like and click subscribe. And is there anything that any comments or that kind of thing that you write down would definitely help the YouTube algorithm. So again, any help that you can do that would be really, really great. If you want to support me financially, I do have the super thanks button as well as the PayPal and Patreon links below. Now again, with the Patreon, I've now making the changes and doing the adjustments so that at any tier that you subscribe to, you have access to all the ebooks and the different variations that I've made of it, including the audiobook version, and now I'm making video versions, like slideshow type versions available for the audiobooks as well, for those people who don't want to read or just don't want to have something visually that they can see. Okay, so again, those are available to the Patreon people as well. All right, so in today's episode, I just want to do a little update of some of the different artwork that I've been able to do using different anime techniques. I've also done different things, trying to get a lot into this things of motion and stuff, right? Because people are starting to get into the the ability of like we've always had the ability to render pictures and that kind of stuff. That's been around for a while. And so I'm going to show you some of the examples of some of the pictures and that kind of stuff, and some of the concepts that I've been doing. Mixing different art styles together. So what if this person drew like this person, type of thing? Like what would it look like? Or let's take like for example, an iconic character like Chun-Li or Tifa or Deedlit, or just take one of your favorite characters. What happens if you could draw that character with some other artist? Like, what happens if Kenichi Sonoda drew it that way? What happens with, Satoshi Urushihara drew it this way? What happens if, Mashiman Shiro drew it this way? Then, AI could do something like that. And then I have some examples of that kind of thing, which I'll present here. All right. The other thing that I've done with AI is I've used it to help me write an e-book. Okay. Now a lot of people are quite familiar with things like Grammarly. Okay, like try to help make spelling corrections, help fix your grammar, maybe give suggestions to write it a certain way or this way or whatever. But yeah, I've done a lot with that, and I'll probably have to make it a whole episode, of just doing that. But again, I won't make that part of the main line. I'll probably make that as more of an educational kind of sort of an episode, maybe like a review kind of episode. But I'll put that as a side episode, which I'll probably release on Tuesdays instead of on Fridays. All right, so you don't have to worry about that interfering the anime content. Okay, so. For example, use that to produce my book, like this. And so I've been doing lots of work trying to find ways to not only change the audio for this, and so it can be read to you, in case you don't feel like actually wanting to read the contents of the book or anything like that. You can actually have somebody read it to you, as well as now producing visuals, both static ones for the slideshow, and now I'm trying to actually make a moving video version of this thing, so I could literally animate this as a hentai. Okay, so again, that's something I'm sort of working on, and I said the technology's not quite there. It's still in the works, and but it's looking promising. So we'll see what happens when they do that. So anyway, I'll show you some examples of what I've done using that as well. Okay, so without further delay, let's get into some of the examples, and I'll explain what I've done to that. Okay. Okay, so for my first example, I decided, okay, well, why don't I start with an anime like Sailor Moon? Okay, and maybe I can work on some of the characters from that show and see what I can render. That's sort of the same kind of thing. So a lot of the characteristics would be the same. So I decided, okay, well, let's load in the Laura for Akemi Takeda, and then type in the description for Ray, with a center uniform, red sort of vest with the bow. Give her some star earrings, long pictures. How they would resemble. Pretty neat match for that, and produce some pretty nice pictures. Okay, so the first character I thought of was this, getting into Sailor Moon. Right, that was a very big series that we got into fan subbing and that kind of stuff. So I thought, okay, well, why don't I use some of the Sailor Moon characters and see what I can do with that? So the first thing I thought of was my favorite character is Sailor Mars, and my favorite artist is Satoshi Urushihara. Known for things like Plastic Little. Obviously does the artwork for Lane Greaser. And so I thought, okay, well, why not if I, said, put in the SF for how Satoshi Urushihara draws, and then take the figure and the definition of what Sailor Mars is, right? School uniform, red dress, long black hair, etc., and put that into the algorithm and see what it can generate. And so, obviously, one of the closest figures that Satoshi Ushihara, has is the character Lambda from Langrisher 5. Um, and so a lot of the pictures kind of resemble her in a way, with her sort of her suit and the cape and everything like that. So you can see references of that in the work. But so it's some of the results are actually pretty nice, and what I've managed to generate with that. Okay, so then I guess continuing along, I thought, okay, well, um, one of my favorite characters I like is Sailor Pluto. And I thought, okay, well, the description for like Ray over Pluto is pretty much the same. Long hair. And I changed the descriptor from black to green, and then basically add the large ponytail. Now, of course, adding that sort of ponytail hairband, that thing that she has on the back of her head, that was a little difficult because when you specify ponytail, it usually refers to two, not one sometimes, right? And so to try to specify that, to only have one is a little tough because sometimes the algorithm wants to build two, much like how Sailor Moon to be drawn, right? But yeah, so but at times they got it right, and they managed to get that working. Otherwise, yeah, the model pretty much works the same as Mars would. Again, working with different numbers and that kind of stuff, and trying to tweak different things. I got multiple very good results of how the character did. Again, the the school uniform and that stuff is a hybrid between a regular, of course, standard Japanese type school uniform. I guess if I put the slider towards the Pluto samples, and then of course if I tune it a little more towards the Ushihara side. I get more of again the characteristics of Lambda, so more of a bodysuit, that sort of orange color that she has in the middle on her vest and that kind of stuff. Those characteristics from Lambda start appearing in the pictures. The shoulder plates, the cape, and all that kind of stuff. So it had some interesting stuff. So I decided, okay, maybe I'll change to a different artist. All right, so now I decided, okay, now that I've got the models and that kind of stuff for Sailor Pluto already, let's change the artist. So, as I did with Sailor Mars, I decided, okay, let's go back to Kimi Takeda. Now, again, when you're just sitting trying to describe and make the prompt for Sailor Pluto, again, Madoka and Asesina are pretty much the same person, right? You think, long hair, again, her hair's gonna be, like green as opposed to black. She's gonna have a ponytail. Okay, so that's why Madoka and Mars would be more similar, but to add the description of adding the ponytail, was the same thing that I had problems with earlier, where trying to convert a single ponytail bun as opposed to a double one like Sailor Moon would have had, was a little difficult. But other than that, it produces pictures, very, 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 very close to what Madoka would be like. Again, it's school uniform, pretty much the same. Obviously, instead of being red like Mars, it's more black. Okay, but then again, that's not too unusual for what Madoka would be wearing anyway, right? So actually, it worked out really well. And I'd say after doing a multitude of the renders and that kind of stuff, I actually produced really some nice pictures of Madoka. So if you just kind of imagine, um, you know. Uh, as I'm going through, running these things, I would, get certain ones that fell into place. The hairstyle working properly, the uniform working properly, and be suitable for Pluto like I'm displaying now. But, you can see with slight variations where they didn't come together, I actually would produce good pictures of Madoka. And that's say the same thing with March, too. If the image didn't, not all the words that I used to describe, Mars or Pluto, that would be just, that particular thing. So, for example, the uniform wasn't modeled in red or modeled in black. The wrong parts are colored in properly at all. Basically, you end up with a basic picture of Madoka. So, here I have various different pictures that parsed out of my prompt. It actually rendered out some really nice pictures of Madoka, and that's good too. So now I've got some really nice pictures here for that. You couldn't quite get exactly the picture. The AI is not following your prompt properly. Yet the end result still works really, really well. And once the pictures are generated, there's multiple usages for it. So maybe you'll see more of these in the future. Okay, so the next character I want to try is somebody is doing some work with Sailor Mercury. Now, this sort of came along when I was starting to do some modeling and that kind of stuff with the some characters that I used in my novel. And again, one of the things I'm doing is right now is taking what I've done with the ebooks and stuff like that, and I'm basically now providing more visual and audio content to them, right? So make it into an audio book. So I've done that, converted everything, and made the ebook into into basically an audio book, right? So for those people who don't want to read the content, they can have the content read to them. All right. And then the second thing I want to do is I want to produce something that has a visual content, like slowly try to make this into maybe a graphic novel, or even just sort of like an actual an animated feature, right? That's sort of my really future goal ahead of time. So here I am, generating characters and that kind of stuff for that. And one of the characters, again, sort of resembles Sailor Mercury. So I said, okay, well, all I have to do is just change some of the settings a little bit, so that instead of modeling a character like Sherry, I'm going to be modeling something more like Sailor Mercury. And so the results, just by altering some of the words a little bit, I ended up generating, this version of Sailor Mercury. Okay, so that's how that sort of came around. All right, hope you found that really interesting. Again, this is just sort of, what I've managed to do. Just sort of learning it, like like every other sort of person. I'm not a real big expert on, how to do, things like stable diffusion. I haven't, got a computer nor an install on my end that's really good at doing that kind of stuff. Maybe in the future I'll have to get something so that I can actually get into something really, really detailed like this. But right now the technology is still relatively new, and there's a lot of things that you can still do with it. Let's just see. I'm just just trying to figure out what can I actually do with it, and where it is. So hopefully this will keep you up to date, and also document where we are at and when we're when in the timeline of this creative AI kind of stuff is. I will be doing some more episodes of this, as I produce more and you basically be able to show you more of this stuff. Plus, I'll probably also be making a special episode to put onto the Patreon as well, because obviously you can generate a lot of NSFW stuff that can't show here, obviously. So I'll put that onto the Patreon so that people can have access and look at that stuff as well. Okay, so until next time, I will see you again.